All right, I shut down everything else. I think I was clogging up my internet.
Ah,
All right, dude. So fuck it. Let's jump right into it. Like I said online, I can edit out anything you want. So
sure.
don't worry about whoops, my shit. I hope I'm recording. Okay, I'm recording. Yeah, say whatever you want, and shit, man. Let's get into it. So introduce yourself, kind of say what you do, and like I don't know if you've seen, but in the other episodes, I always say, you know, I like to get like a cert, like kind of see who you are and what you're doing. If it's cool, if it is, obviously I'll reach out to you. But then I don't try to look.
Okay.
I don't look into it any more than that because I like to sort of figure it out as I go and let the people listening to this kind of do it vicariously through me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I gotta confess, I wasn't able to listen or anything ahead of time.
No, dude, I don't give a shit.
Rushed.
I don't give a shit.
That guy right there,
Yeah.
ready to fly. And I had a flight yesterday. It didn't go quite as planned, but
Yeah.
you know, it's all a learning process.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
about that. So yeah, my name's Rob. I work actually by day as a part of the SLS program.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, so I work at Kennedy Space Center.
Oh, holy shit!
no.
I thought you just 3D printed rockets. This is like 10
No,
times. This is
no.
10 times cooler. Fuck it, let's go.
I by day I'm a big scale rocket scientist, and
Yeah.
by night I do the small ones.
Oh, holy cow!
So yeah, I've been working out there a few years now. It's kind of neat. It's not as involved as doing it at home yourself, because when you're doing it yourself, you get to be like the designer, the launch controller, the program manager, do everything. So it's like I want things to go faster on the real thing, so I made my own.
Yeah. You're the judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel that, man.
So I had the engineering background there and stuff, and I was like, yeah, I saw this guy on YouTube or whatever who was doing something similar. He went by BPS Space.
Okay.
And his name's Joe Barnard. He lives out in Tennessee, and I started watching his stuff, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And he's doing like basically the exact same thing, where he was taking these small, model rockets and, some trick camera angles and stuff, make it look like crazy, where it looks huge. It's got real vectoring system where it's angling the engine to fly, and he was 3D printing legs and stuff and doing really, really cool stuff. And I was like, wow, this guy's intense. He's like, he must be some kind of engineer. And I look up, and he's a music major. His major is in sound engineering.
God damn.
Yeah. So he was a cool guy, and he was, maybe like 3 years in. He had a real dedicated following, but it wasn't super, super big.
Yeah.
And I messaged him via contact form on his website, because he had like pictures and stuff, information about himself and what he was working on. And I was like, yeah, I'll reach out to him. And so I say hey and everything. I'm like, hey, I want to try and do something similar. And he was like, yeah, do it for sure. And he was like, you're an actual engineer, so you'll get a little further faster, I think, than I did. But I mean, he was doing great. Like, his rockets were flying perfectly straight. He's got really advanced control. He had like his own circuit boards and stuff. I was like, wow, I'm really impressed by your stuff. And he told me about it, and we kind of compared notes. And a little bit later than that, maybe 6 months later, I was like getting pretty close to launching my first one. And he, at the same time, was about to fly his, he built a Falcon Heavy.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a lot of hype around that. And he put that out there, and he blew up on YouTube. I think he's at 100K now.
Oh, I thought you meant his rocket blew up.
Oh, no. Yeah, it flew great, actually. He had a problem with the upper stage or whatever, but the flight, beautiful video. He had like drone shots, slow-mo, on board, everything, the whole nine. I was like, that's what I'm going for. That's
awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, so I would say he would be a great resource to reach out to too.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll talk to anyone I can, man. I just like talking to people. This morning, yeah, I talked to a police sergeant. We talked for 2 hours. He just
damn.
Yeah. The other day, I talked to a guy who's in the Israeli Special Forces. Yeah, man. It's just, I find that all the conversations, no matter who they start with or what the area expertise is, I find that they all always lead into something that you can't plan. Like, you know, it evolves, it blossoms into something that, like this, I don't know where this is going. I'm just literally just like, walking in the dark, let's see where this goes. But it always turns out cool. So, yeah, no, I'll talk to anyone. But so you three, so this is going to be a stupid question, but this is why I'm having you. So I can ask you, can you do 3D print functional rockets, or is 3D printing for like a model, and do you have to physically assemble working rockets? Like,
so, I got some parts around here. So I guess there's there's 3 or 4 different classifications of parts. So to give you some real rocket terminology, there's flight hardware, which is anything that flies. There's ground support equipment, which is abbreviated GSE. So that's anything that stays behind.
Okay.
And then there's also like temporary stuff too under that category. So and like processing equipment that you use for not necessarily like launching or flying, but it's used like in the assembly process.
Okay.
So like this is, 3D printed. This is something that goes on the launch pad.
Okay.
And it mounts, so you can see it's curved right here. The rocket tube sits here, and it holds it so that it's stabilized until launch, and when it's sitting on its side, when I'm like wiring it and everything, right before it goes vertical.
Okay.
So the whole tower goes from horizontal to vertical. So actually,
show that thing again.
Yeah. So the whole thing on this tower here, which I sustained a little bit of damage, but it's really not a big deal. I just gotta retighten the screws and everything. This whole tower, I have to kind of do this little jerry rig, but it leans back like this.
Oh, damn.
And the claws and everything and these supports all support it. So when it's sideways, it makes sense. Actually, I have a picture. So
that thing is insanely detailed.
Yeah, well, it's all functional is the point of it, kind of.
Yeah.
So it all is on there and serves a purpose. So that would be it on its side.
Okay.
So the way I have to wire things up, I basically have the engines. You need access underneath them to put in the igniters to be able to fire them.
Okay.
And because of that, you gotta have a way to get underneath it, and when it's vertical, there's no way. So they all rotate sideways like that.
Holy cow!
That's my other one. That one fills the entire pad. It's huge.
How big is that one?
That one, the orange part in that picture is 3 feet long, and then there's another maybe foot on top of that.
Jesus.
It's a big rocket, like especially for the scale and the engines that it's flying. So certain parts, you kind of got to buy. So this is like a spent engine casing.
Okay.
So it's just like Hobby Lobby. If you ever done any model rockets, like as a kid or whatever.
When I was really
same exact thing. This is just a slightly bigger one.
Okay.
And it's got some green tape on it to make it fit a little tighter.
Yeah.
But one of these goes up inside it. So the Falcon 9 It's got one loaded into the engine. The SLS one, it has 3, so it's got 3 engines that all run together. And that, in the end, was not the original design. So I think I even have some of the older pictures on here. So I was like, when I first started talking to the other guy, Joe, I was like, I've never done any of this before. I didn't have any real experience 3D printing, doing the coding. I had done like drones and stuff, but that's like you just buy all the parts and put it together and it works.
Yeah.
So it's like, where do you even start? You know? And I had done little model rockets. It's just a tube, a parachute, whatever, it works. But this was like a big change. So I started with that.
Okay. And how tall is that?
That's about so to right here is 3 feet,
okay.
And then that's maybe about a foot and a half.
Okay. Yeah,
so almost the same. Like this is the same tube as the orange one. It's just not painted.
Okay. Yeah, but they're deceptive.
Yes. So at this point, it was really heavy, and that's one thing I didn't fully expect. So I was like, for one, bad at making parts. So I was like, how do you optimize things for 3D printing? I was like, I don't know. So this was like an early prototype. Terrible. Like now I look at that and I cringe because everything's like thick on it.
See,
the structure is not optimized.
See, I'm looking at it and I'm like, if you had just said that was the latest one, yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed. I would have been like, oh, that's so badass. But you're like, oh, I cringe at this one. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, because like for the rockets to scale, you're stuck with what you have. So engines are what forces you to make decisions because you can only lift so much.
Yeah.
I had talked to my buddy Joe, and like him and I have exchanged like 50 emails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe by the time I'm ready to launch.
Yeah.
Like we going back and forth, and then he blows up. And after that point, like email, totally impossible. So I ended up like talking to him through like text and stuff.
Yeah.
Able to actually talk to him, and now we talk on Discord and stuff too.
Yeah. He's gotten too big.
Yeah. So for him, it's his living.
Yeah.
Like he does YouTube and everything. He lives through it. I can only devote so much time, so I do what I can. But I am trying to, grow some of the YouTube stuff. And I have kind of a small channel going and like a Patreon. And a lot of those people are like, yeah, I like what you're doing, and they throw a little money at it. But during this phase right here with the early stuff, no, terrible. Like no money basically to devote to it. Everything that I have is entirely funded by me, and because I'm just starting out and I don't know what's going on, like at this early stage, I just go like, yeah, I'll try this, and it ends up dead end, and that's like $40 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't have my own printer either, and I still don't, so I kind of have to rely on other people, which means I have to like think about how it's going to print way more.
But that might be helping you though. That might be forcing you to fine hone your imagination, your designing skills. I feel that it does that sometimes. Like I taught myself graphic design, but for 2 years, it was just on an iPhone 4 with 8 gigs of memory, and I was just literally just crash coursed it. And it was after that my dad got me an iPad, and I could take off and do much better stuff with that. But for 2 years, I was really kind of Tony Stark, like Iron Man, like Tony. I'm limited by the technology of my time. It was like that. It was like you got to learn shortcuts. You got to learn efficiency, and then all of a sudden you get a higher ceiling. You get a better piece of technology, and all of a sudden you're no longer tethered. You can you explode. So. Yeah, sorry, go on. So you... Oh, no, yeah. That's like, that phase actually happened like exactly like that. That's a great way to describe it, too. Yeah. So one of the
the first things I started doing though was like, before I get too deep in this, I was like, I'm gonna just design something up. We're gonna try and make an engine mount, print it up, and see how it works. So the core of these type of rockets is called a thrust vector control mount. So or TVC, which I'll probably we go to acronyms a lot.
Okay, yeah. As long as you define them the first time, so I can keep up, we're good.
So thrust vector control is like, if you break it down, it's vectoring or changing the direction of the thrust to control something.
So
F-22
performance
fighter jets do that.
The F-22, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Got the two nozzles that can do this, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the rockets use that too. They use big hydraulic rams to push the engine nozzles like up, down, left, right.
Mm-hmm.
So my first thought was, well, how do I do that? And I was like, I don't want to cheat and look at Joe's because, for one, he's doing his own thing. He's making a living off of it. So I, in good conscience, can't do what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna look at a different approach. So I looked at some real rocket engines, how they're mounted, how they get controlled and everything. And one of the big things that a lot of them use is a universal joint, like on a car, where it can go up, down, left, right, and a hydraulic on each, like up, down, and then a left, right one.
Mm-hmm.
So push pull on one, and you push pull on the other, and that gives you full control.
Okay.
So this was my first part, which I had to have contracted.
Uh-huh.
So I found an online service called 3D Hubs. I sent it out to them, and I was like, okay, I'll get it back. And I was like, wow, that's like the coolest thing ever, because I can make a 3D model, and in 3 weeks' time, I can get it back.
That's crazy.
Two to 3 weeks. So like 1 week of like talking with them to make sure they got it all right. Maybe a couple days, payment clears and everything. Then they make it. It might take them 2 days to have it clear. Like they print it and it prints okay. And then they're like, okay, here's your part. We're ready to ship. Are you okay with I ship? I have to sign off on it.
Mm-hmm.
They ship. I get it, at the speed of snail mail. And then I have a part. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. And that part right there, they charged me $97.
Is that good? Or is that, I mean, it's a lot of money regardless. I don't know what. No,
it's not good. The plastic is not worth that much.
Okay.
The printing, even any of that. So it's like a convenience thing for them almost.
Yeah.
So from that point, I realized like when I make these parts, I gotta move with force basically. So like what I make has to work.
Yeah.
And I found out that was not flight hardware.
Yeah.
That was shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Like my first expensive venture into things, I'm like, wow, this is heavy as hell. It will never fly.
Yeah.
Because you're stuck with how much can come out of this.
Okay.
So, in working through all that, I'm like, okay, well, I gotta try here, and try and learn everything I can from what I have. So this was my first test setup here.
Okay.
Which it's an engine with the vectoring system inside the housing, and a tube was supposed to connect to that, and you can see it move around and everything. It's just literally taped to a bathroom scale.
Yeah.
And that last thing is called an injection charge, which inside the engine is a little explosive charge that normally opens the parachute. But for these type of rockets, it's a problem. So you have to make sure everything's sturdy enough to withstand it.
Yeah. Now,
it's engine mount.
What did you have it on? It was
that was scale, like a food scale.
Yeah, and probably an obvious answer, but is that to test the, I guess, the, hey kitty, is that to test the I guess how strong it is?
Yeah, I wanted to see how much thrust the engine put out, which in the end, now I don't really test for like thrust on a scale or a stand or anything, because the documentation on the engine, like you just get a PDF file and it shows you like the thrust over time and everything.
Okay.
So
all right.
That's just like you just type in the name of the engine and it comes up. So like F15 is what I usually use. That's what this is.
Okay.
So F is like the size and weight of the propellant, kind of. So it's like A, B, C, D, E, F to P and M. But F is like one of the largest that you can get without being high power certified, which takes time and effort and everything, which I did in college, but you have to renew it and everything. It costs money. So I'm like, I'm not gonna rely on the high power engines. They're harder to get to. They're more expensive. So 2 of these is like $20.
Okay. All right. So
that's yeah. So that gives you like your cost per flight, kind of. Okay. So you want to go as cheap as you can and get as much bang for your buck.
Yeah.
And I realized early on that like your engines, because they're stuck, you have to make what you have work with them. So I'm like, yeah, this is way too heavy. It's not going to fly. I need to go back to the drawing board. And then I kind of took what I had, which is one of these. So that's like the engine mount, and then this is the computer model for it.
Okay. And do you design all that?
Yeah, so I designed up that.
How?
Like done. What was that?
I said how? Like that's. I was about to say that's rocket science to me, but I guess it's a good analogy. Yeah, or metaphor. That's rocket science to me.
Well, it's not too complicated in all reality. It's there's a universal joint right here in the middle.
Okay.
And I found one online, and I was like, I'll make one in the computer that looks like the real one, so I know how big it is.
All right.
And then it needs to be round, so it fits in the tube, and it has screw holes in it, so I can screw a hole through the tube and into the plastic, and then I just have the screws thread into the plastic.
Okay.
And then I was like, so I need to be able to control it, so I got these like RC airplane servo motors. And then they have little ball joints and everything that go down to here, and they do the same thing I was saying, like the full-scale rocket does, where you push on this top one and you go up, down. You push on this bottom one and you go left and right. So that's your 2 direction controls.
Okay.
So that's the absolute basics that you need. You need a up, down, a left, right.
And you can get in that's full motion.
Yeah. And the flying part of things is like balancing an object, on your hand, where like you're moving like this underneath it to keep the support near the center of weight.
Yeah, I want to ask that. Yeah, how does that work? Because you always see every rocket launch, or even like I just think of like the ones I've seen the most are like Saturn V launches, and but like how is that even accomplished? Because it's obviously going to fall over without thrust, and you have, I know what explosive bolts. I know there's stuff. Please excuse my complete uneducated terms with this. You got to bear with me. I know there's things that hold it in place, and those have to stop holding it in place the exact moment the engines kick on, or is it the exact?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Well, it depends on the rocket, kind of.
Okay.
So, like the Saturn V and the Space Shuttle, both of those, they
turn on before they take off. Though the Space Shuttle, it starts shooting fire out the back before the whole thing goes up. So, why is that?
So for those, they're running like pump-driven engines that are using liquid fuel and stuff, and like a turbo on a truck or something. Like you hear the whine as it starts to come up to speed. It's got the same thing in it, basically. Okay. It's got a turbo. It's called a turbo pump.
Okay.
And it spins really, really fast but it takes a while to come up to speed and start pumping at full power.
Okay.
So the Saturn V, I think, had to sit there for 4 or 5 seconds of just spinning up to speed.
Yeah. So
for the space shuttle, it was like 3 seconds or whatever. And then when the solid motors on the side go, they're up to thrust instantly. So for my rockets, because they use a solid motor, the solids come up almost instantly.
Okay.
If you have like a high speed camera, you can see it there'll be like a flame, but until it's like really going and it's fully like you have a nice flame coming out of it, it's not at full thrust, but that's like milliseconds or whatever, like really short amount of time. So like for the space shuttle, when the solids kick on, it blows all the explosive bolts at that moment. For the SLS, it's the same thing. So our core engines fire up and we sit there for like 4 seconds, and then our explosive bolts and our SRBs go, and the solid rocket motors on the side kick on, and the whole thing leaves the ground.
Okay. And again, please bear with me, because you're dealing with a Neanderthal when it comes to. I through some miracle passed physics at the University of Georgia. This is
good. Just as background, I give tours at the Space Center, so like I've seen like whole range. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, simple question, but what is the, when I think of rockets, I finally start hearing liquid fuel. I just always think of anything: a boat, a jet, a car, gasoline. Of course, it's liquid fuel. Okay, I get solid fuel. All right, that's got to be like a bottle rocket. It's got, but how does that not all explode at once? How does it, or is it literally just burn up like a sparkler? Like, is it just burns through it? I know the solid ones have. I listened to a book about I think it was called Into the Black, about the space shuttle, and they said, is this accurate? They bored holes through the solid rocket boosters.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, it's just like one of those things that like doesn't click in my mind.
Yeah, it's not intuitive sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's got a hey, stop that. It's got a core down the middle, and that like hole down the center of the engine on the solid rocket motors is what burns.
Okay.
So if you imagine like looking at a donut from top down, where the middle's empty, but they can change that shape. So sometimes it can be like a star shape, so it has more surface area on the inside.
Okay.
But the sparkler analogy is really good, because it's like the top of the sparkler can't burn until the flame reaches it,
Okay.
So solid engines are the same, where like it starts in that core area and it burns out.
Okay.
So you burn from middle to outside. Okay. Now this one is a little different. This burns from beginning to end, so it's like a left-right burn.
Yeah. Okay. And sorry, was I interrupting? Sorry, I thought.
Oh no, I was.
So what is the? What, again? My limited knowledge on this is Kitty sabotaging.
Yeah, she's gonna lick the soot off the launch pad, and I don't think that's good for her.
So would there be? And if I know what I'm talking about, which I don't, is it liquid fuel is infinitely more complex, but what's the benefit? Is it can be turned on and off? Yeah.
Well, liquid fuel, you can throttle it, so you can change your thrust. You can turn it on and off. The big thing about that is you can change the shape of the things around it. So like if this rocket over here was liquid fueled, the rest of the rocket would be fuel tank, and then the engine would be a small portion of it.
Okay.
Where for like solid, for mine anyway, this is all the part that does the work. Okay. You know, once I run out of everything in this, I'm done.
Yeah.
With a liquid engine, you can like if you needed to give it more burn time, like more time running, you can make the tank bigger, you know, for the fuel tank and the oxidizer tank. So you get a lot of advantages from going liquid, but at this size, doing a liquid engine is just not practical. Like making a liquid engine would be thousands and thousands of dollars. You need like expensive metal machining equipment. You'd need a place to test it where you can explode it and it's not going to go into the neighbor's house. Because it's a bomb inside the engine chamber. Yeah. It's just a bomb with an exit that you're sending it out the other way. These, you know, you can buy them at the store. Yeah. They're pre-tested. They almost never explode. They work great. So for price wise, it's like I can go buy one of these, you know, for $20. Yeah. Where doing a liquid engine and just attempting, like if I were to attempt to put it at that scale, it would take years of development. So, and it's just not practical. It's more dangerous, you know, because if this blows, it's like a big firework. If the liquid, like that's all, like let's say kerosene in there, that's a bomb. That's a bomb.
There would be a dangerous pressure wave, right? That would.
Yeah, and shrapnel and stuff. You'd have to make it out of aluminum. Jesus. It's just like asking for way more than you want. So these are like perfect for these size rockets. But like I said, you know, you're kind of stuck with what you got. So the first one I built, I was like, I'm just going to fly this, you know, straight core thing. Yeah. And it was way too heavy. And I'm like, I don't get what's going on here. And I started like, I made a table, like a chart, and it's like, the tube weighs this much, the engine weighs this much, and I, you know, added all that up and everything, kind of see where I'm at, like what can I cut, almost like a budget. Yeah. And I realized the tube on the bigger diameter, there's like 4-inch, 3-inch, all over the place. So that's a 3-inch, and the SLS one's a 4-inch. Well, the 4-inch tube is like twice as heavy because it's twice as thick. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I'm stuck with this tube. I have to like get everything lighter. And I got most stuff a lot lighter. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to fix this. And eventually, you know, I'll just add more engines to it. And that's where the side boosters came from. Yeah. So it ended up, you know, kind of designing itself, I guess you could say. Yeah. And we can rotate left. So that, you know, after realizing, you know, I need boosters and stuff, so I sketched up a few extra 3D printed parts, like a ring that goes around the outside, and then a ring that goes around the booster, and they kind of like hold hands like that with each other. So you end up with that.
Oh, Jesus.
So the middle part is the same. The nose cone is a little modified to the old red one and everything, but the main point was I'm going to put 2 side boosters on there that are uncontrolled, and they just give it an extra kick, basically. Okay. Middle is a part where it's vectoring the engine and everything. So I think I have a one good picture too of so there's the business end. So you got your 3 engines, you got one, you know, here, and then a middle one that burns even longer, that's more expensive.
And is the middle one solid fuel? Right.
So you can get different fuel type solid fuel engines. So this is like a gunpowder one. This is like your bottle rocket, sparkler, or whatever. Makes a lot of smoke, a lot of flame, but it's not super efficient thrust wise. and this only lasts 3.5 seconds before it's gone.
That's it.
The more expensive ones, they use the same thing that the shuttle or any like full scale rocket uses, but they're like twice as expensive. But that particular one that I use is it's like 7.5 seconds of runtime.
Okay.
So you get a lot more runtime, but it costs a lot more.
Okay.
So the dollar amount to fly that thing one time was like $40,
okay.
Worth of engines, because you got 3 engines in it. So this was that guy.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, a lot of soot, a lot of smoke and everything. But it honestly flew decently well. I think, yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Which I have.
God, that's
like,
cool.
Whole, yeah, I can link you the video. Like,
please
YouTube.
Please do. You have a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
Please, no, I'll link all of it, dude. Please, That's badass. What's?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Scale wise.
What's your top out? How high have you got it?
So that one's gone the highest of anything that I've flown. So there's, your sense of how big it actually is.
Jesus Christ.
That flight probably went about 150 feet, but it should have gone higher.
Okay.
So that rocket, like, it was a big leap for me because I had to learn like Arduino and stuff and all this other stuff. But the like thing that controlled it was like a drone.
Sorry, what did you say? You had to learn what?
Arduino. It's like a microcontroller thing. It's like open source. Oh yeah, they there's like a big community of people who like make stuff with it. All it is so this is like a big one, but it's a little circuit board.
Oh, okay.
And it's got a lot of pins on the side, and they're all numbered, 1 through 20, 1 through 30, 1 through 12, whatever, depending how big it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you can write a little program that goes on it, and then it tells those things to do things. So
okay.
You hook a sensor up to it, and you just download like the sensor code online, like from the library, and it'll like output, the altitude is 5 feet.
Okay.
All
right.
Or 10 feet. So you can grab that type stuff from it. It'll move like an airplane servo or whatever. Like you can get it to move it back and forth.
Okay.
But when you start combining those things, you can make it do a lot of stuff. So that particular rocket was my first kind of use of any of that, because I hadn't learned any of that ever. But I put an altimeter in it, and the altimeter would look at how high it is. And I wrote a little short if-then type statement. So like where it's checking the numbers over and over again, like every like quarter second or whatever, or 5 times a second. And the statement was like, if the previous altitude is more than the current altitude, then open the parachute.
Okay.
So that means you're falling.
Okay.
So I was like thinking like it knows just a number, for how high it is.
Yeah.
You can say like, I'm at 10 feet. I'm at 11 feet. Now I'm at 10 feet. It's like 11's more than 10. I'm going down.
Okay.
Because as long as the engines are running and it's going up, you're gonna have a positive number or whatever. Yeah. And then it had like another thing that's like, so if that's true, then set like pin 5 to on.
Okay. Okay.
And then when pin 5 is on, it opens a relay, like a mechanical relay, and that dumps 12 volts into a little black powder explosive charge, and it blows the nose cone off, and the parachute's all still out.
This is why it's rocket science.
It's like a collection of things that aren't very complicated that kind of come together.
You're doing a fantastic explanation. Yeah, you're doing a fantastic explanation. You are, I guess I would say more so before even this brief conversation. To me, that's rocket science. But now you're explaining, and I'm like, oh, okay. It's like I took molecular biology in college. It was like you start to learn like exactly what like not just like you have the DNA and the RNA, and it does you know, you actually learn like the proteins are doing this and they're unfolding here, and it makes it a little less. It's like it's still crazy, but it makes it, you're like, because up until then, like I learned physiology, I learned general anatomy, and it was like I got it. But to me, even up until my senior year of college, once it got down to the nucleus, to me it was just, that was sort of this event horizon, and I was like, and that's where stuff happens and stuff comes out. I get all the systems in and out. Once I get down to that level, I was like, and there's where the magic happens. So like, you know, vini vidi vici. Then, but once I start to like, oh, I went and learned it, just like what you said, they're simple steps. There are a ton of them, and they all have to happen a certain way, and that's the complexity.
Yeah.
So no, you're doing a brilliant job of explaining it. Yeah. So you said the previous altitude has to be high. If it's higher than your current altitude, that means we're falling. Now, do you have? Is there like a certain rate, or?
So I used a little extra math on that, saying like it has to be more than the previous amount by like 30% or whatever. I just picked a number, basically, to say like, because it's a sensor, you know, so it's just doing something and then it's spitting out a number. So I was like, it can give you the wrong number. So you can be sitting still and it can be like 1.1, 1.2, 1.1, 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, but like your average is still the same. You're not moving, but it's like bouncing around a little bit because it has to have some number to spit out. So that, like, I just like tweaked it a little bit, like times whatever, and that would make it so that, you know, you really got to be falling. And the way I ended up testing that was I stood on a chair and I had the relay hooked up to like an LED so it would light up, and I had to like hold it as high as I could so that it would register like a change, and I like shook it down really hard, like you know, I didn't want to drop it, but you know, all the way down, and you could like plug it in the computer and it would spit out like all the numbers or whatever, and the LED would light up and I'd be like, yes. And then sometimes it would be sitting on the desk and the LED would just come on and I'd be like, add some more to that, because that would just make it blow the parachute like in my hand, technically.
That what I was gonna ask is, because it could still technically be going up, but I was thinking like, what if the majority of the thrust was because it was like something happens and it's going not down, but like, what if it was going almost entirely? It'd be like an anti-ship missile. Like, well, you could still be going up. You could be like 11 feet 1 inch, 11 feet 1 1/4 inch, and it wouldn't be deploying. But meanwhile, you're looking at this thing and it's streaking over the next county, and you're like, oh shit! Like, it's going towards the airport. I'm going to federal prison.
So, I that flight, it did that. So you'll notice it's upside down there. I mean, it's only a few pixels. But it's it went end over end. So one of the side engines on one of the boosters burned out before the other one, and it did this spin move. And they didn't fall off like they were supposed to. So when they ran out, they were supposed to fall off, and then the middle part's supposed to keep going. But when that doesn't happen and they don't fall off, and one's still pushing around, it, you know, you spin out of control. So it sensed that it was no longer going up, even though it was still moving, you know, and it was moving sideways, kind of end over end like that, and it goes, and it opens the chute.
Okay.
So that was like kind of self-correcting. Okay. Now, fast forward to now, and instead of using a little drone controller, I got my own.
All right. So
there's different places online that manufacture circuit boards like this.
Okay.
So this is like a custom design circuit board, and it works, you know, you can just grab like parts off the shelf. So you can say like LED, you know, or a resistor or whatever, or electronic part, or like or one of the Arduinos, you know, which is that right there.
Okay.
So it's got like little pins and everything, and then on the back you can see all the goodness. and it looks super complicated.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in reality, the thing I compare making one of these, because now I see this and I'm like, that I could have done parts of that way better.
Yeah.
But the game like Flow or whatever, or I Flow or whatever, where you have to draw the lines and reach the end points, but you can't cross over the other lines.
Okay.
That's basically how you make these.
Okay. All right.
Because you have to be able to get from point A to point B, but you have to be able to get there without crossing the others. There are ways to like go around, but they make your life more difficult. So wherever you can keep it all on one plane, you try to.
Yeah.
So this is like a custom one. So I wrote all the software on that, which was a big learning curve.
Jesus.
And that took almost a year.
Jesus.
Because I mean I don't work on it too much.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to launch anything for a while, and I ended up coming up with like, maybe I'll do my flight controller one way, maybe I'll do it the other way. I would like build something on one of these prototyping boards, you stick all the stuff in and see if it works, and I wouldn't like something or whatever, I'd change out the part, and I kind of got stuck for a while on that. And I stopped working on the stuff as much too. But I think back, I got a like folder of stuff. I think I have like so this was like in that period, so I built like a prototype version on like a board where you have to put all the wires in yourself and everything, because I didn't know what this was going to look like. So I was like, let me just make one first and foremost. So I made like a simple one. I wrote the software on that, and you can like move the circuit board, and it would move the engine mount. So before I continue, so this is what I'm now at, basically. So you can kind of see, engine in there. This is a kind of a prototype of the same exact thing where this one glues together, the other one's all one piece, So I've learned a lot more about making things thinner and lighter and everything. Where with this one, you can kind of see all the different colors. They're all different pieces. Yeah. So like purple and this gray piece, it's all glued together.
Yeah.
Well, you can 3D print things, and now this black one is all one
solid piece. Yeah.
Which it has an extra one on here, but it doesn't need it. It has its own little extra part. So I went from what you call it, 6 parts or whatever, down to 3. Then there's other rubber bits, so those are a little different. But you can see the blue on there. The black ones are a little harder to see.
Okay.
This is where I'm kind of going now with things. So making use of some of the different filaments, you can get like TPU rubber like that. And it's a flexible filament, so there's a little servo up here, and you can see, it doesn't take much angling.
Yeah.
It angles it just a little bit.
Yeah.
So this one's free. It has no servos in it, so it can move everywhere, basically. So you get left, right, up, down.
And that one, and it's lighter, because it's right. You said that one's lighter?
Yeah. So less parts, instead of having like this ring and everything. Yeah. I thought I was going to screw it together so it's got all holes in it. I thought like, I can just glue it on. And I was like, why would I even bother with that?
Yeah.
And I can integrate it as a part of it. So it had these little, like I said, rubber TPU pieces. It's, again, black, so it's harder to see. But those, because it's like a flexible rubber, that's just the hinge. Okay. So that's the mechanism. Instead of having like a screw or an axle or anything, it's literally just a thin section, that bends.
Now, how much does in the other one that you were using glue on, how much does but hey, by the way, your cat just walked in.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't want her eating toxic
stuff. She set the wire right that time too, so thanks.
Yeah, no, she's sneaky. But how much does, because, so when you say you have like the multiple different pieces, you have glue, like my first thought is like, yeah, whatever, it's just a little bit of glue, but everything's scaled down. This isn't a 300-foot rocket. This is everything's scaled down, so every ounce, every gram matters. How much does, because correct me if I'm wrong, what you're negating, or I guess what you're removing when you're 3D printing and having a smaller number of pieces, if not a single piece, what's the main weight is it adhesive and screws, or just any fasteners? Is that or is it, can you do a lighter material?
Fasteners are a big one. The other, yep, I'm just going to do it again. Okay. She'll just sit at the door and wait until she gets another opportunity.
Oh yeah, no, so, yeah. Oh yeah, no, she's not finished.
The glue is one where you're adding a little bit, because every time you add something, you're adding weight that you can't remove.
Yeah.
So the other thing too is like this one has a ring around it. So by integrating just this little side piece right here where it comes off, I get rid of that ring.
Yeah.
So I take this piece and then it becomes just that, you know, where it's just a smaller piece.
Okay.
Or this one technically gets a little bit heavier because it's then a part of the tube, but instead of being, you know, the tube and then this collar on it, it's just the tube and then these little dovetails that come off of it.
Okay.
So this one, like this engine mount is not even glued together in any way. Like there is no glue holding this together. It's all friction fit with the dovetails that are in it right there.
Yeah.
And like it's really stout, especially when like this piece is in the tube.
Yeah.
Tube makes some of the structure for it. So I've learned a lot about like putting it where it counts and then removing it where I don't need it. So I'll make a part like multiple times. This is a launch clamp.
Okay.
This is one, so this is like my newest version of it. The old ones. Not, you know, I thought I knew what I was doing, and then, you know, you realize you didn't, and you go back to it. And even this I went to assemble it, and, you know, there's like a little, like a gap, kind of, if I can get a screwdriver to poke it in there, right there, where I could have just kept going with this on the model and made it go all the way smooth. And then in the end, I just had to drill in through there and kind of gum it up and break it a little bit to get it to work. On top of that, you know, like the screw head touches the edge of this wall here where I could have like carved it out a little bit. So on these, because this stays on the ground, it's not as important. But like for this versus this, like there's small things that you change once you build it the first time, you know, like that little thing right there. That's literally so that I can stick the screwdriver like in to hit the screw better.
Okay, yeah. So so it's incremental changes and evolutions, or I guess iterations.
Yeah, and the printing helps so much with that. Like even on here, like there's a little ball joint on the outside there. Well, that touches the tube when it's inside the tube. Mm-hmm. So this one, I'm trying to find the spot, has a little indent right there.
Okay.
Where now that ball joint can hide in this little nook right here instead of being out in the open and cause like an interference. So it's a lot of like try it, see if it works. If it doesn't, then try something else, you know, or see where it's making contact and stuff. So like this arm right here, I put this whole thing together and I realized this screw on the arm ends up hitting this flat surface. So now it's like carved out on
Okay.
here. So it's a lot of stuff like that where
Yeah.
like I've built parts, and during like a really long period of like making stuff and then realizing that's crap, redo it, and going back, and I did that with the software, I did that with everything, and that eventually led to that guy right there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if that's not like a beautiful lesson in persistence, it's.
Yeah. Well,
it's-
and it's like it's kind of hard sometimes when you're not flying anything for a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. No, dude. I mean, yeah. I mean, I would say I get. Obviously, I don't make rockets or anything, but I mean,
Still.
yeah. It's. There's no. It's that middle ground. I mean, in college, I knew I wanted to go to medical school, but there were classes I had to take that, like, you can't really. You'd be taking physiology or organic chemistry, and like, yeah, they kind of give you gray hairs, but it was also cool because it was like, I'm doing this thing, I'm like working towards the goal.
Mhm.
But then there'd be classes that you take where, it's like you gotta take political science or like, classical literature, and you're in your junior year of college, and you're like, you're like, I'm not using this on the MCAT, like I'm not using this in med school. It's I guess that's my analogy is, yeah, you're not flying anything, and it's kind of hard to. You got to keep the spark, not the literal, but like you got to keep the figurative like spark going, where it's like this does serve a purpose. Like, don't get lost in this, how shitty this part is or how much you don't want to do this part. So no, I get it, but yeah, it's so what's next, or like what are you most excited for in your next? Or is it, do you not really know what's coming? Is it just this continual trial and error, and you don't know what next week is? Or do you have it? Do you know what's coming?
It's kind of both. So just to give you an idea, I don't know if I have, so this is April of last year.
Okay.
So this is like a short clip. I was like literally amazed when I got this working. So this is an engine mount right here, and you can see the engine tube and everything moving while I move the little computer. So it just wiggles.
Yeah.
That's all it's doing.
Yeah.
And then when it flips over, this LED turns on, because like you were saying, like if it starts flying sideways, parachute.
Yeah.
So the LED is like the parachute in that one. So getting that to work like last April was a slog. For 4 months of just sitting and, hitting your head against a keyboard because the gyroscope is not talking to the little Arduino microcontroller. And then when you get it, you're getting the wrong number. And then you're like, okay, it's going to work. And you put it in and it just freaks the fuck out.
Yeah.
And you go, like it goes in the vectoring system, like it sits centered, and then it goes, and it jams, and you can hear the servos going, like, because they're trying to break themselves.
Yeah.
And you're like, plug it,
Yeah, it's.
Or you plug something, you smoke it, and it was just so much of that. And I was like, I don't know about this, man. And then I got things to move, and I was like, okay, this could work.
Yeah.
I might be able to get this to work. And
Yeah,
fly.
it's. Yeah, no, I mean, it starts to compound on itself because it, and it's not just the, you're not Werner von Braun with the entire funding of the U.S. government. It starts to be stuff that people don't even consider. It's like, I'm not making money on this. Like, I'm not, and that's how I am with, a podcast. I've been doing it since December 12th, and it's friends and family are like, where are you finding these guests? I'm like, dude, I'm just going out. I'm just like trying to find people to talk to. And but with the rocket, it's like, no one's paying me. I'm not, this isn't blowing. It'd be, if you had 500,000 followers and everyone's ready for the next video, that can give you a spark where you're like, okay, like, you got your audience, but it's the beginning that's so hard, is when no one's watching, no one's like, hey Rob, when's the next launch? And it's just you, and you're looking at it, and you've got 3 people viewing, you're just like, fuck. And you know, and you see other people, and they're fucking, and they're knocking it out of the park. No, I mean, it can suck it out of you, but like you said, a little bit of light comes through the clouds, something works, and you're like, okay, there's a chance. You're like, okay, it can fucking work. You're like, I'm not crazy. Okay, well maybe I'm crazy, but I'm not as crazy as I thought I was. And then it breaks your heart, and it leads you on. You're like, oh, it can work, and then the next day it just, bam, no, bitch, no, it can. You're like, fuck, and then you put it down a couple days, and then you come back to it. Yeah, it's kind of like chasing your passion, like you're doing, or what I'm doing. It's kind of like an abusive relationship. You're like, okay, maybe I'll give it I'll give it another try. But then I'm looking at the thing, but I'm looking at your SpaceX rocket over your shoulder, and it's you don't jump from the beginning to that. It's one of those things where you step back and all of a sudden you go, I got to here? You're like, when did this happen? Because there's never a big day where all of a sudden it all happens. One day you glance at it and you're like, how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah. So for me, I hadn't been doing a lot of posting stuff. Yeah. And my buddy Joe, he's like, because I would just share it with him pretty much. Yeah. And I had like a small Instagram following at the time because I did like stuff with quadcopters and drones and stuff, and I would post my drone. At that point everybody was doing it, and I was like, it's not as special now or whatever. I'm not flying as much. And then I was doing this, and I'm like, I guess I'll post more of it. And Joe was like, just make a YouTube video, just start. And I was like, I don't know, talking in front of a camera is weird and stuff. So I was like, maybe when I fly the first one or whatever. So I set up this whole launch pad. I do all this crazy stuff. I develop these little clamps. These are way better than the ones on there, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
The other ones are pains in the ass. And then I get it all ready to go. I load like this engine into it. I've tested it. I've like hit the button and the tower falls away. And I like posted that on Instagram and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, people like this. Yeah. They're like, wow, that's really cool. And I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna fly this thing. Yeah. And I went, and I did that thing where you're like, I'm so confident it's gonna work. And I put a $27 engine in it that was gonna burn for a long time because I'm like, I've tested the vectoring, the gimbal works, software works. I can twist it sideways, it works. The pad pulls back. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna work. Yeah. The countdown clock on there works. It counts down. It beeps. I was like, man, that's cool. It beeps, like getting that to work. And then I go out and I'm like about to launch it. And these two guys, like, we're out playing cricket, and they're like, oh man, that's so cool. We're going to go watch it. And I hit launch on that thing, man. And it got hung up on the tower on the way off the ground. No. The whole thing was terrible. It was like sliding around. It was like, early 60s. I was like, damn, that sucks. It broke the nose cone. I broke the engine mount inside of it. I was like, man, that sucks. I broke part of the pad. Yeah. And I went, this is not going to be as easy as I thought it was. Yeah. And this was maybe like May, June of this past year. So April, I was like, maybe I can do this, and I get out there and, I'm kind of nervous. Fly it, terrible. Yeah. Go, maybe that's a fluke. I can fix this. I have a few spare parts. Yeah. Get another print nose cone. I had the legs all off of it, so I didn't break those, and it was lighter. I went, I'll put a lighter engine in it, a cheaper engine. We'll go smaller. I'll edit the code a little bit. I'll make sure everything's going the right way. And I did like a direction check. I was like, okay, so it goes this way, it goes that way, blah, blah, blah. And I take it out again. Yeets itself into the ground in an arc. It slammed itself so hard. I'm like, I was livid because I was like, I'm working really hard at this. And I go back and I check the footage, and it's this super badass shot, and I'll pull it up here. It was a slow motion looking up it as it the ground, and that was one of those things where it's like, if this works, it's going to look really really cool. It's one of those, so the claw falls away and everything. Like, I fixed the timing on it, and you see it kind of curve like that. Well, it curves right into the ground, but I look at that video and I go, I made it go backwards. So like when it was supposed to go left, it went right,
Yeah.
because as it leaned one way, this has to go a specific direction. And if it's opposite, it just makes it worse, basically.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. And I'm like, okay, I can fix that. New nose cone, printed out. The engine gimbal broke again or whatever. But I'm like, I got this new idea. Instead of using the universal joint where it's all metal, I'm going to use one of these rubber ones, So I built a rubber universal joint, put that in there, and I went, yeah, I'll fly that, and that looked like that, basically.
Yeah.
So that's the newest one, but it was basically like that, and I'm like, okay, that's good. And I fly it again, and better than the last time, but it still goes up, and it kind of arcs over, and it doesn't open the parachute when it flips sideways because it doesn't go high enough, and it slams onto the ground sideways. It's fine. Even the nose cone's fine.
Yeah.
For the first time. And I'm like, okay, I'm onto it here. I'm almost there. And there was like a short spell in there where it rained for like a week because it was like summertime. I went, I did engineering stuff like this in school. I bet there's a way to simulate it or something. So I wrote like a dead simple simulation of it, not like 3D or anything. It was like in Microsoft Excel using, the spreadsheet basically. So I was like, every like 10th of a second, I'm going to do like the math for what it would do after the previous one. And it just like calculates it forward or whatever. Yeah. It's like this, it's like a very crude way of doing it, but it works okay. Yeah. And the smaller you make how much time between each one, the better it works. So
okay.
I went, okay, I think I can predict, how it will respond. And I basically wrote the software that's in it into the Excel, and that was terrible. It took a while to make it actually work because, it would spit out and be like, you're spinning at 8,000 degrees per second, and it's like doing this.
Yeah, but I think, but it's like that quote. It's like, you don't compare yourself to others, and it's perfectly true with social media. Even I hate saying social media because I sound like a boomer. That sounds like with social media, but I mean, don't compare your bloopers because the only thing you're seeing is everyone else's highlight reel. No one's posting videos of the coding of the making the joints, making the no one, or the cat trying to eat it, like no one sees that. You only see look at this fucker go,
So I actually, at the time, I was posting even the failures because I'm like, it's content, it's something.
Yeah, no.
And I was only really putting stuff on like Instagram and everything. And my buddy Joe was like, man, you got to do YouTube. Yeah, this stuff's cool.
Yeah,
he's like, people like this, and he had a big following at that point. Like he had flown his Falcon Heavy twice. He was a guest speaker at NARCon, which is the National Association of Rocketry Convention, because everyone was like, Joe, we really like what you're doing and everything, because he was the only one other than myself, but I'm not releasing any of it. He's like, Rob, people love this, do it.
Just start.
I made like a website, like a little blog type website, and I like threw a bunch of pictures and stuff up on there. I'm like, okay. And then I was, I'm 4 flights in at this point of trying to fly this thing. And I'm like, I got a little simulation thing, and it tells me like because you got to tune it. There's like 3 numbers that you just have to pick.
Yeah.
There's no real equation to decide them. You can just kind of get numbers that should work for them, basically. And I would like, put them in, and then I would have my little Excel thing, and it would do a little graph, and it would show like a curve or whatever. And basically what I would want to see is the curve like go up and then go back to center, because that shows that I shoved it and it came back to center. Okay. So that was all code in there, and I'm like messing with it, and I'm like, no. And it was like 30 times, like the number that I had to put in was like 30 times what I had put in. I was like, wow, I would have been trying at this for a while, because I was bumping it up like 10 each time. Yeah. And I put that in, and I go out. I was honestly, I was not super confident. I was kind of confident, but I'd had my ego bruised before that. So I was like,
yeah,
look here, man. It's on. This is what ended up being posted on YouTube. So I made like a 17-minute video telling everything that I just told you, basically, and it all led up. I just want to make sure it's in the frame and everything. No. It all led up to this right here. So this is my favorite clip.
Fuck yeah. But that looks awesome.
And it's got an onboard camera and everything. So this is 5 tries in.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's
and you see
awesome.
It angled the plume and everything. Like the plume comes back the opposite way. That's real time.
No, dude,
and
that's
then,
awesome.
It comes back. Fakunk lands. It's great. So this is that whole video, going through. So there's like the
push and the return.
Yeah. So like the numbers I tried and everything, explaining all the stuff, the equipment inside of it. So that's like the new flight controller, and talking through everything. So that was the first video I put up, and it got like great response.
Yeah. And
from there, I made like a Twitter to track everything and post updates. And like as of now, the YouTube channel has, I gotta go, check the thing. It has 599 subscribers.
Dude,
so that's since
awesome,
past,
dude.
7 months.
That's awesome,
which I'm like kind of amazed that like people like it, because I was like, I sound super awkward. I don't have a mic or anything, a good thing to record with.
Neither do I, dude.
Yeah, I threw it all out there, and I'm like, okay. And then, on Instagram, I'm up to like over 1,000 now, like 1,500. And like people like it, and they like message me, and they're like, hey, I like what you're doing. I want to try doing it too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's been the coolest part for me, is like, when somebody says, hey, I like what you're doing, and they send me a picture, and they're like, I bought my first Arduino to learn. Yeah. And because I want that too. And I'm like, that's the most rewarding part, because that's what I did when I saw Joe flying.
Yeah. It's it's cool as shit when I made a subreddit. I started a subreddit last January because for like the last 2 years I would just make these really shitty Photoshops, and I purposely named it wrong because I wanted to reflect the lack of seriousness that I was putting into it. Because I was like, so I'd take like modern fighter jets and I'd Photoshop them into like World War II. But I'd like match the lighting and the graininess, but it'd be like an F-22 Raptor, like tearing over the Battle of the Bulge or something. And I'd try to make it look as convincing as possible. And I called it Funner History. So instead of fun, it was funner, just to sort of the lack of sincerity. But I did this for like 2 years, and I was posting it on our Air Force. And someone was like, dude, just make your own subreddit. And I was like, kind of like your friend telling you to post stuff. So I was like, all right. So I made my own subreddit, Funner History, and for like 6 months, it was just me posting and just me looking at it. And then one day last summer, someone else was like, posted something. I was like, holy shit. And then another person posted. And what I was going to say, though, is like people telling you like they love what you're doing. Do people, whether they know it or not, they're attracted to genuine passion about stuff.
Yeah.
There's a reason why the people I have onto this podcast, like, it's not what they do, it's how much they love what they do. Like, I have no inherent interest in photography, but yesterday I had on a guy that does aviation photography, like sits in the back of planes and film shit. But he fucking loves it. And like, that's why I want to have him on. Like, that's why I wanted to have you on. That's why you're on, is because it's not what you're doing is badass, but like what I'm attracted to is like your passion for something. Like, that's cool, because the vast majority of us don't do that. I was not passionate about medicine. I got into medical school, but I decided not to go because I was not passionate about it. That's why I'm doing this. But so the funner history thing, it's not that it's good, but it's that it's made with like imagination. As of today, I think it's at 18,000 people. But it's all bullshit. Like, but the thing is like it happened twice. It took literally like a year to get to 1,000 people, and then one day it just trended. And
well, that's how it works. Is like you reach a threshold.
Yeah.
And it's such a slog to get to that threshold.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's like, it's like. It's exactly that though. You're pushing, and then just bloop. And like that's something like I never even set out to do. It's not even what I want to do. I want a podcast, but like I started doing that, and for the last 2 weeks I've stopped contributing because I just want to see where it goes. And like it's take it on its own lore. Like people they talk about, like make up shit. Like there's alternate timeline, like JFK survives, but the bullet misses and hits Jackie, so JFK turns into this dark motherfucker and he nukes Vietnam. But people have taken this into their own. It has its own lore now, and it's self-sustaining. And other people contribute that they're finally like, I've been lurking here for a year, and so I downloaded Photoshop and I made it. I don't care how shitty the Photoshop is. Like, it gets to stay up because it's like people, like you said, hey man, here's my first Arduino. Like it's cool seeing other people get inspired by it. And that's what people are attracted to, man. So you're absolutely right. And another thing is, so you showed me that video, and this entire podcast you've explained how it's it's going off to the side and how it's disappointing, but to someone like me that has no experience with this, I look at it, and to me that's badass. Like, I now know the backstory, but even now that I do, but even if I hadn't, I see this fucking thing moving away from the rocket, and it's taken off into the sky. It's like, dude, that's so badass. You got to remember, that's what the vast majority of people are seeing. They're not other rocket enthusiasts. Sorry.
You can frame things like that too, which is what I initially did a lot of. Like, I can do a trick camera angle where it sits a certain way and it looks better, kind of a fake it till you make it type thing. But I always would post like, it didn't work. I was always like, I'm not going to write a failure off as something that, is, whatever, not a good flight.
It's not a failure. No, it's like that. Yeah. It's such a cheesy quote, but I love it. There's no losing. There's winning and learning. It's just like, okay, that one didn't work. We now know what we're not going to do. But what I was going to say is not even trick camera angles. It's because it's the fact that you launched a rocket that you made. So like you don't even need to do trick camera angles. I look at it and it's just like, here's a crazy mad scientist motherfucker that printed his own rocket and it's taken off. Like, I don't care if it spins out. I don't care if it explodes. More snobby enthusiasts might be like, well, you didn't get it to go to a certain altitude. But like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's fucking crazy. Here's a dude shooting off rockets. Like, so yeah.
Which I came to respect that a lot more, and it's like sometimes the failures even people like more. So this was yesterday.
Oh, Jesus.
So for one, this is like, I mean, you're looking at it like through a screen, through a camera, then through a web stream.
Yeah.
Like this is a beautiful photo.
Yeah.
Like as a photo, like the lighting and everything. So it got hung up on there's like an arm that retracts and pulls some cables out and stuff. Never happened before. Happens this time. It went a little crazy and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I posted that on Twitter or whatever, and like the thing that gets people to like follow something a lot, I'm trying to find where it went, is like how many times it gets retweeted, and the failures are sometimes more shareable. Yeah. So like this is the most successful post I've ever made. It's at like 9,000 views now.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
And that's, I posted it yesterday, like 12 hours ago. So I'm like, wow, people think this is cool. And it's got like a ton of comments on it.
No,
like,
it's
you will not face today, haha, you know, or whatever. And they're like, this is like the Iranian missile program or something like, stuff like that. You know, and it's engaging to people, and they're like, I can't wait to see the next one. You'll get it next time.
Exactly. And that's the shit that's the fuel for you. That's where it's like, fuck yeah. Like, you know, I have 6 subscribers, but dude, when someone messages me on Reddit and they're like, dude, I really like your podcast, man. That's cool. Like, that is, the people don't understand how, like, because this is what I'm passionate about. So someone's like, that's badass. Keep going. Dude, that all your previous failures go out the window, and you're just like, you fucking get high off of it, and then the next failure comes and, you know, shits on you. But even something like, it's the Iranian missile program, like, that's still like, that took a whole country to fuck up. This is just me, so like, I'm equal to fuck it. I'll take it. You know.
Well, it's a compliment in some regard. I mean, like.
It's still a missile program.
I didn't have a video ready either, and I made like a quick montage of some of the stuff I had to do to like get ready. Of like, I had to like drill out some stuff. So one thing I've been doing is like take a lot more B-roll, you know, because B-roll lets you string together something more interesting. Because if it's just the launch, it doesn't sell as well, you know.
Okay.
So I had like, you know, screwing parts together, so I'd like be holding my camera and like in the other hand and like trying to frame it right and be so I have, and it's just like, you know, like a license free music track, and it's, you know, like a wire or something, little smoke coming off or whatever, and like a bunch of people are like, can't wait, oh my god, and then, you know, that happens, and I'm like, maybe I won't post that just yet as a thing. Like, what I want to try and do is fly another one and then like make a completed, like, here's run one, here's the second one, you know. Well, but like, even on that, people are like, hey, you and Joe need to do a collab, you know, you're really inspiring. Like, that's why you do it, kinda, so.
No, dude, it absolutely is. I linked to my subreddit somewhere, and it's TPC, which are my initials, Thomas Patrick Kerrigan, Tommy's podcast, and I was just like, all right, so I'll do that. Someone commented, this is a shitty ripoff of JRE, Joe Rogan Experience. And I was just like, I'll take it. Like someone's like, this is a shitty, like, unproduced ripoff of JRE. And I was like, fuck, man, you mentioned me in the same sentence as him. I'm like, that's what it's all about. But
yeah, you're like, he's the biggest guy, whatever.
No, I'm like, cool. I'm just glad to even be compared to someone like that. But I mean, what I was gonna say is, think about the SpaceX failure compilation video.
Oh yeah.
You know, that might be their most viewed video, and it's just rockets blowing the fuck up nonstop. Yeah,
and like, there's a point where you're like, I gotta put stuff out to get people to come to me.
Yes.
And I built a Patreon, you know, and as a part of that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try and release stuff through there. So what do I have to give? Well, my files. Yeah. So like, this is a leg. So, you know, if somebody wants to build one of these, they can pledge me $5. Yeah. And they get
download the file. Parts. Okay.
So through that, I've gotten, you know, I'm not taking off. Like, I'm not obviously going to make a living off of it like Joe does, because Joe, it's his income.
Not with that attitude. Not with that attitude.
Well, I still have my full-time job, so he devotes all day to it. He has like a loyal following on Discord who talk to him. I mean, like, in the background, I just keep seeing the thing pop out from people messaging each other in the group. Yeah. And he invited me into it to be like, hey, this is Rob, you know, he does what I do. And a lot of those people hadn't seen anything, and they're like, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. So in the past 2 months, basically, I set up the Patreon pretty much, like maybe 3 months I set it up, and then I got my website and everything revamped, so that like the website will take you to the Patreon, it'll take you to Twitter, it gets you everywhere now, instead of like, this is just some stuff, blah blah blah. And I put a lot more like work into it, and started kind of paying dividends, and the Patreon grew a little bit. I mean, I can only spend so much. So like every dollar helps.
Yeah.
Like $5 is another one of these boards.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think the biggest example of that is this.
Okay.
A lav mic.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was just recording audio, you know, like this off the cell phone and everything. So with the lav mic, I can just pin it here, and the audio quality is like
really
insane better all of a sudden. Yeah. So if you don't have one of these, this is like $15 on Amazon.
Okay. Yeah.
I highly suggest it.
Okay.
Joe, I was like, Joe, what lav mic do you use? And he goes, I use the cheapo one on Amazon or whatever. And it's like $15, and it has an 8-foot cord or whatever, so you can plug it in wherever and go around wherever you need to go.
Yeah.
And I recorded just a short, like, this is what I want to try and do in 2020 video. Mm-hmm. And I used it, and I was like, oh my God, Joe, this is like the greatest invention known to man here.
Yeah.
So I guess I've kind of been on a tangent, but you originally asked, like, what's coming? You know, what do I want to do?
So dude, there's no topic. Just go with anything. It doesn't matter.
It kind of flows from all that.
Okay.
So this is the new thing. This is an untested engine mount. So I'm going to be like running new engine mounts. The other thing too, I'm going to try and be flying more and stuff, so that thing will be flying. And then the video or the photo that I put on Reddit that you ended up finding me through, for the upper stage where it has the dragon on there and everything. Mm-hmm. So that's what this ends up being. So this has its own engine mount, which, you know, I usually have to talk to someone directly for them to, you know, understand what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Because it's not obvious, you know, oh, it's a nice looking rocket, but no, this is a small version of that. There's one of these that is inside of this that operates it and everything. So you have like everything in this in here, and that is the goal of 2020 basically, is to get this to fly well enough to where I can duplicate it in smaller scale. And I mean, there's a parachute inside of that even.
Dude, it's gonna work. Your channel's gonna blow up.
Yeah, it's a matter of time at this point. No, but
you're too passionate about it. You're too meticulous about it. It's only a matter of it. It's not if, it's when. I don't know, but dude, it's going to work. Like you were saying, that guy, like, that's his income, so he can do this all day. Well, yeah. It's because his income, he can do it all day, and because he does it all day, it's very good, and so he can get more out of it. That's gonna happen with you. It's you have to segue into it, which is what you're doing. You have your full-time job, and you do this on the side, and it's gonna segue into it. Yeah, it's gonna segue into it. So no, don't look at him and be like, oh, well, he can do it full-time. It's no, dude, you're getting there. You're in the middle. You're in the middle part. That's where you are right now. It's gonna fucking work. I don't
intend to do it all day, but
bullshit. You know. It's gonna blow up, and you're gonna do it all day.
Well, I like my job and everything. It's pretty. You know, we work on real rockets and everything. Yeah. But like there's cool stuff from both. Like talking to Joe, like he invited me into his like Discord server, which is normally like a part of his Patreon, but because we've been talking so much, like on the side and everything, it ended up being, you know, something that he was like, yeah, you're an honorary member. You know, you're doing the same stuff. Everyone is gonna love what you're doing. I like showed a picture or whatever, and he was like talking me up a little bit. I'm like, oh, thanks, Joe, man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm designing a new one of these, which is now done, and it's going to be coming. So that's another 2020 thing, is a better one of these.
Yeah.
Some of the guys on there, they were like, yeah, you need to adjust this, you need to change that, and if you add this here, you can add functionality. I'm like, oh, thanks. So like, it's this great like collaborative experience like between people who make things. I mean, it doesn't matter what you make, like podcasts, like photos, flower arrangements, rockets, anything. Everybody's like able to help each other, and I think that's the coolest part. And like on the Patreon, somebody I had a message from him right now, even where he's like, he was like, "Hey, I really love your launch pad. You know," and he's like, "I think it's like super amazing, and I want to make my own. And even if he doesn't do the thrust vector rockets, you can go get like a Hobby Lobby kit and put it on there, and all of a sudden it looks super impressive or whatever. Or you could do a different type of rocket, and you can launch it off of there. Or he can do the thrust vector stuff because it's all of this I have through there." So he was like, "Yeah, can you help me out? What files do I need and everything?" I'm like, this one. He's like, "Can you change the format?" So I'm like, trying to help work with him to get him, you know, a way to make it, because I didn't make like a guide or anything on how to make any of this stuff. But with him like messaging me, I'm like, "Yeah, I can one-on-one with you for this." And like he's like got the printer and everything that needs to do it. He just needs, you know, a little guidance. I'm like, "Yeah, of course. That, like, you're helping to fund me.
Yeah.
You know, you're helping to make this possible."
Yeah.
And I mean, already like I got like a cheapo GoPro. You know, I got the lav mic. The Patreon stuff helped with like getting spotlights. You know, things that like I would want to do eventually, but like I can now just do a little faster. The new flight computer, you know, is entirely through them. And it's like, one of the guys, he was like, "Yeah, I like what you're doing." And I was like, "Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I can't devote enough to it, so I don't go as fast as I want to." And he's like one of the moderators for Joe and his live streams and his chats and everything. And he was like, "Well, you got one more or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And he's like, "Yeah, I like what you're doing too. I like what Joe's doing. I want to support both of you." And I'm like, "Yeah,
dude.
It's the you know, kindness out there in people. You know, the nice things people have to say. It's neat to just be able to throw stuff out there and, like you said, like see genuine passion, and they're like, "Yeah, of course, dude. I love that. I'll take more of that."
Yeah, dude. People are drawn to genuine passion, like fucking moths to light. Is that the right analogy? Yeah, they are, dude, and especially when it's on a smaller scale, because sure, you have, you know, your passionate singer or, you know, athlete or whatever, and it's amazing to watch like true stars, but it's also like, I don't know, you're not as much as a part of it. But when you see stuff first starting, dude, there's something about that's like, you just want, like, you're like, that's badass. And so whether it's a podcast or whether it's rockets, dude, people like seeing the start that no one else sees. People like seeing that. So like, yeah, no, it's, I mean, I'm just repeating myself now, but dude, it's true. That's how it is. People fucking love just genuine passion. It's, and if it's about something they like too, it's that times 10 more. Yeah, no, I think we're hitting the same thing.
It's just so cool, man. Like, I work at Kennedy Space Center. It's like there was a real SpaceX rocket launch today.
Yeah.
And you know, some of my coworkers and everything, you know, that I talked to a lot, they worked on space shuttle. My boss, like, she, like, because I'm a contractor, I'm not a NASA direct hire. So like, I have a NASA boss and a contractor boss. And my NASA boss, she used to flip switches in the space shuttle with the astronauts before flight and everything. She did all this crazy stuff. One of the other guys, he would like go out and work on the boosters. He'd been out on the boat when they fished him out of the ocean and brought him back. He would go work on the underside of it and everything. There's another guy, he would work in the doors like that open up and refurbish that. And they all did all this like really, really cool stuff. And then I'm here and I have like a file cabinet on the back of my cubicle that's like above everything. And I have, because these are dual purpose, these little mount things. they also serve as a display stand for things.
Yeah.
So I have I always basically, because I can only work on one at a time, I always have a rocket across the back there.
Yeah.
And some of them are like, "Hey, Rocket Man, what's going on?" and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh man, that's kind of cool."
Yeah, dude.
That I have like a reputation with that thing, and they're all they're all way older, so they've been there, done that. They've seen all that stuff. They even see like the SpaceX stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that's a little tiny thing,"
Yeah.
We used to launch that. What they launch as a side thing. It wasn't even the main thing, and then we were throwing 7 people and a space station module, and they did all this stuff. Like one of them, she helped build the whole space station, and like I'm like, man, it's like all this cool stuff, and we're like with SLS, we're not as fast to do stuff because we're still in development, but we are getting really, really close, and it's been really cool to have like hardware show up and stuff. I think I have so this is one of my photos from work.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I park over off to the side of here, but this is like a model of the full size thing, which they practice with for picking up and setting down and stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to find. Oh, that's Star Wars Land. But yeah, it's crazy to be out there and stuff and see everything. Could have swore I had like another one in there, but and like it's neat to like you're saying, see the beginning of it, but it's like hard when it's going slow, So at home, that's kind of my outlet of like I'm gonna have my own space program, and I have SLS. And I'm gonna launch more frequently, but even I can't get it ready as fast as I want to, and everything. So, it's I don't want to quit my day job for it, but I want to be able to still. I want to get both. Like I want to dip my hands in both things.
Dude, you will. I mean, it's everything you're doing is what leads to success. It's just no one ever sees this part. You don't. Yeah. You don't see the. It's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's. Send me that picture. I'm going to use that because I always, so like what I do with my subreddit that has nothing to do with this podcast, but I did build the subreddit I started it. I use that I'll pin my podcast at the top for like a couple hours just to get people going there. And if anyone's ever like, this doesn't have anything to do with the subreddit, like, fuck you. I started the subreddit. It's mine. I can do whatever I want with it. Send me that because that's what
I have the crown thing.
Exactly. I am I am in charge. I am the. It's I can do whatever I want with it. No, send me that because I'm going to use that. But like, let's wrap this up because I can hear my dog going fucking batshit downstairs. But
it's no problem. My girlfriend's going to get home and she's going to be like, "It's time to go to the gym," and I'm like,
no, it's time for rockets. Rockets don't sleep.
But I know, right? Well, that's the other thing is like I'm trying to also have like a social life and everything too on top of it.
Yeah.
So it's like I gotta keep up with everything. Yeah. So some weeks are kind of slow or whatever, but I always try and have my like hour and a half, which I gave to you today. Like 5 to 7 or 5 to 6:30 or whatever to work on stuff.
Well, shit, man, I appreciate your hour and a half. I having flown yesterday, I'm a little bummed, but I'm like I can still nail it and have a little bit of flex time to leave early tomorrow. So I'm gonna leave like maybe a couple hours early from work, and then come home and work on it and stuff. Fuck yeah.
So.
What I was gonna say is there's a quote from Ray Kurzweil, the futurist, and he talks about like how like paradigm shifting, like disruptive technologies occur. Whether it's custom genomics or whether it's personal computing or whether it's nanotechnology, 3D printing. He says it's like when it starts, it's like when the underwater faults shift, and that's what causes the tsunami. And it and the big mound of water moves from, you know, the center of wherever, center of the Pacific, and it moves all the way to, say, Indonesia. For 99% of its life, no one sees it. Maybe a couple guys out on boats. It's just this mound moving. It's not until the very end, when that motherfucker crashes, that the entire world sees it. Now, granted, that's an example of something that's very bad, but it's I think the nature of growth, I think it's applicable to what you're doing, to what I'm doing. It goes for a long time, and it's not even. It goes and then vertical, and that's how this stuff works, and it crashes, and it's miraculous.
Yeah, even the printing in general, like what it's become in the past couple of years. The guys I met through my work who have printers now, so like I'll go in and I'll stop by and I'll be like, hey, and they'll Skype message me, or it'll be like, hey, I got a print for you, and I'll drop by and I'll have a leg or whatever. Yeah. You know? So now they're helping me for not quite free, but I'll supply them with filament, which instead of buying, you know, the $90 single piece where I had to have it shipped to me, and that was all I could do for that month was buy that one part. Yeah. Now they're like, yeah, I mean, it cost me like 8 cents to print, you know, this clamp here. Yeah. So I'll just print it, and I'll have like a fistful of parts or whatever, and I'll walk home with that. Or like he'll put like 4 of these on a bed and print them all out, and I'll come in and he'll be like, yeah, I just print a few extras or whatever for you. Yeah, it's
a synergistic effect, man. But the thing is you only see that if you stick with it. And it sounds simple enough. Well, yeah, we'll just stick with it. Why? How come everyone doesn't stick with it? Well, it's because what you're seeing, it's what I'm seeing, is there are an innumerable number of days where it's just like, fuck, fuck me, fuck this. Why am I doing this? I want to do this. Yeah, but dude, when and if it gets there, it's miraculous. But let's wrap this up. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for giving me your hour and a half. It's been an hour and 50 minutes, so thank you for that. That helps me, man. To me, that's like Patreon. I got a cool guest, and you gave me your blip of free time, so I thoroughly appreciate that.
Of course, I like doing it. I like talking. When I give tours at the Space Center, so I guess as like a closing thing. So SLS is not very liked program. Everybody looks at SpaceX and is like, they're doing more. It costs less. SLS is too expensive. It needs to be canceled. Yeah, that's like the internet.
I know. No,
and I'm like, after when I started there, it was kind of like that. And then you like spend a little time in it, and you see there's a lot of thought behind things, and there's a lot of reasoning. So I was like, damn, that's like a lot of this is really cool, but nobody knows about it. Yeah. And I tried to like learn a lot of it. And eventually I became like really on board with the program and the stuff around it. I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. This is way bigger scale wise and like all the other stuff that goes into this than most people realize. And it is way more worth the money than people just write it off for it, because they see a big number and they go, whatever. Yeah. And one of the things that I think has given me a better perspective of like public perception is I got tapped one time to do a tour because the other person who runs the tours wasn't available to. And I'm like, they're like, yeah, we heard you're passionate or whatever, and you would be okay with doing it. And it was just like a FIT, the Florida University. They had a tour group of people from one of their classes or whatever coming through, and I'm like, okay. And they were all kind of my age, so I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And like after talking to them, they had more questions and stuff, and they were like, yeah, I think it's really cool. And then their group gave good review to the person who coordinated the tour, and they're like, would you be willing to do another one? I was like, yeah, sure. And it was an Air Force group. And then more recently, like one of them found me on Twitter and was like, hey, you gave our group a tour. And he was like, I really like the Artemis program now, and I think it's amazing, all the stuff that goes into it. I'm like, yeah, because like when you talk to people, you can really like change their mind and everything, and like show them what's going on. So I'm like, I think like that's one of the coolest parts. And you were saying, you know, on the podcast, you get to talk to people, get cool stories and everything. It's a mutual exchange.
Yeah.
The tours for me are a mutual exchange. It gets me excited. And
hell yeah.
So.
Hell yeah.
Same thing with this. So
hell yeah, man. Well, shit. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I would feel terrible if we finished this up and you were like, thank fucking God, fuck that guy. No, dude. Dude, it was awesome, and dude, you are free. You are always free to come back on, and I fully would like you to when you get to the next step on that fucker. Yeah, you gotta come back on and show progress. I want some feedback. I want some one-on-one updates.
Of course. I'll have to once I get to the next phase, you know, I'll have to recontact you or whatever and be like, hey, it went down.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. I'll know when you get arrested for shooting something in the low Earth orbit. I'll be like, he did it.
Or, Orlando International Airport or something detects something.
Yeah, NORAD hunts you down.
Yeah. Right. But I'll definitely reach back out to you. I mean, we'll text and stuff and get all that information. I'll send you photos and links and stuff. I'll get links so I can subscribe.
Please do. Thank you, man. Hey, takes a while to upload this, so it's probably not going to be up till tomorrow, but I'll shoot you a text. And
that is blazingly fast.
Really?
In my opinion, I don't know how much post you do, but like when I edit something, I go back and I'm like, wow, I sound like a total.
Dude, no, I that's what I do in this is I hit like the auto button on iMovie, let it kind of does its thing with the sound, and then I upload it. That's kind of what I want. Is just the raw. Here's what it is. It's
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, I don't watch any of my episodes because I hate listening to myself. But
it's rough. Believe me,
it's terrible. You're like, oh fuck. I look at it and I'm like, Jesus, I'm an ugly motherfucker. Oh I sound like an uneducated goon. Like I know I am, but all right, man.
Yeah, you like pause it too. You see faces, but yeah. I'll send you everything.
All right, dude. Thank you so much for doing it, and I'll send you a link and let's do it again.
Alrighty, man. I'll see you. Have a good day.
All right, buddy. You too.
Peace.
Peace.